Hi guys, welcome. In this video I want to show you in this tutorial how to rig a car so it can follow a path and all the wheels are going to rotate according to its speed, and the front wheels, they have to follow all the turns so they can rotate to the direction where the car is heading. I want to show how all it is done. In this rig there is no physics, so it's not perfect, but I think it's really useful for many simple animations, and I think this is one of, or not the simplest ways to rig a car. So let's take a look how it is done. Opening up a file where all the objects you've seen before is here, but they are all untouched. There is no settings done to them yet, so I can show you all the steps that are ahead to make this rig happen. Let's get into it. The first question I want to talk about is how to make this car follow this curve. I want to talk about it first because this is maybe arguably the most important part of the tutorial, that we are not going to use the constrained follow path. That's an option we could use, but we won't. That's the way I wanted to start it in the first place, but it just doesn't work. Because in later we are going to use drivers to move the wheels, and the follow path constant is just not really good with the drivers. They are messing each other up. So we have to use instead a modifier, a curve modifier. We're going to use this one, but one of the tricky parts still is that we're not going to apply it for the object itself, but we're going to need an object in between, something that helps us in this rig. We're gonna make an arrow for this goal, and we are going to create a circle, change this vertex number from 32 to 3, so we have the head of the arrow, and let's get into edit mode and rotate it into the direction of the car. After we've done that, we have to put it in front of the car, or it's under its nose, so when we're gonna put it on the curve, it's going to run along in front of the car, and we need that because the front wheels are going to be tracked to these points in a way, and that's gonna make them turn into the direction of the turns of the curve, if that makes any sense. But we're gonna need an arrow nonetheless, so let's go ahead and subdivide this edge by 4 and select the middle one and drag them back here under the rear wheels, like so. And the next important step is what we're gonna do with these arrows back. I'm gonna show it to you. Back here we have 2 vertices, but we're gonna need 3 because we're going to use in this rig vertex parent, which is a really important step. We cannot use an object parent connection between the car and the arrow. We're gonna need the vertex parent connection. So subdivide it once again, because we're gonna need 3 vertices for this action, and let's put them into a triangle shape. It's gonna help the object following its location and rotation. So let's put it in a triangle shape, and our arrow is ready. Let's call back the object, and the next step is to parent the car to the arrow. So what I mentioned earlier, we are not going to go ahead, tap Ctrl P and select object. We're not gonna do that, but instead we're gonna get into edit mode, select our car, which you can do with hovering your cursor over a vertex point, and just press L. When you've done that, the next step is selecting the three vertices what we want to be parents by holding down Shift and hit Ctrl P. They are parented now, and when I move the arrow, you will see the car is following it. The question occurs, why do we need to use this type of parenting? And the answer is that when we are going to apply, which we are doing right away, we're going to apply the curve modifier on this arrow. And when we do that, let's select the curve we want to be followed. When we do that, the object's following it, but if we would have done a simple parent connection between the two, it could not follow it this way. So when the modifier is applied, it couldn't follow it on the curve, so it was essential to parent it by vertex parent mode. So while it's done, let's rename our arrow. So it's gonna be easier to follow, and not the object but for the viewers. And let's take all the wheels and parent them to the car itself, so they're gonna follow this rig as well. We can do this now with the simple Control P and selecting object. It's gonna be perfect for our goals. So it's all good. They are all moving together now, but as you can see, the wheels are not rotating yet, and that's the part where drivers step into this rig. How can we use drivers? You maybe know, maybe not, but if you want to use drivers, you have to select the object what you want to be affected by the driver, and find its property what you want to be affected. In this case, we want it to be rotated on the y-axis. So this is the property we're gonna need, and we're going ahead and right click button on this one and add driver, or just hit Ctrl D, and the object we want it to be affected by is going to be the control arrow, not the body of the car but the control arrow, and the X location is perfect for us. The workspace is as well. So this way, when I move this arrow on the X-axis, the car's wheel is rotating with it. You can see it's not really catching up the speed yet, but we can easily change that by coming here, saying edit driver, and changing this expression. For me, I already found out that I have to change it from +0 to *0. We are going to multiply it with 3.5. It's gonna be okay for me. But let me show you, if you are about to find out in your rig how to find the easy solution for you, you have to open up the driver panel and select this wheel, pin it down, because this way, when you open up this panel and then select the arrow again to test how your wheel is spinning, this panel is going to stay here, and you can play with it, and every time you can check if your wheel is spinning the right way. We already have it, so we are not gonna think about it anymore, but if you want to set your precisely, this is the way to go. Now we are ready with that. Only thing remaining to apply it for all the other wheels, so we just simply come here, right click, copy driver, and on the other ones, selecting the y-axis as well, we are hitting past driver, and this way all the wheels are going to rotate with the car. And in this case, when we apply this curve modifier, we already have a car which is moving along the curve with rotating wheels, so we are halfway done actually. But what's remaining is to make the first wheels rotate according to the turns of this curve, and this is a little bit tricky as well. We're going to need another object to help us with this. It's going to be a triangle we need, so just go ahead and give another circle. Like before, three vertices is going to be perfect for us, and like before, just rotate it to the direction of the car. Oop. Why not? This doesn't work. Let's try it again. Now it's okay. And when we've done that, we want to go back to object mode, because first time you could see I didn't really pay much attention to the origin point of the arrow, but at the case of this triangle is going to be important. So I'm gonna just put it right here in the middle of the first two wheels. Its precise position is not really important, but if you put it somewhere here, it's going to be all good. And what we want from this triangle is to track the first point of this arrow all the time. And for that, we're gonna give it a constraint. a track to constraint, and we're gonna ask it to follow the control arrow. Meanwhile, we can give it a name as well, which is gonna be the wheel direction, like that. And as you can see, it's not really behaving the way we want. And if you watch closely, you can see this blue dotted line. It's tracking the origin point of the arrow, and we want it to track the first point of the arrow, which we can do by go to edit mode, click on the arrow, go to edit mode, select the vertex point which we want the triangle to be tracked to, go to the vertex groups, give it another vertex group, name it wheel direction if you want, and hit assign. Now we have this vertex group, and we can tell the triangle in the constraint panel to follow this vertex. As you can see, it's still not perfect because we have to play around with the axis, and we have to tell it to track it with the x-axis and change it to the z, and now it's going to be great. If you move around this triangle now, it's always going to point to this direction, which is what we wanted. But if we go ahead and apply again this modifier under arrow, you can see it stays here, and what we want is to follow the car, so we're gonna parent it to the car's body like the wheels. So let's go ahead and do it, and now it's going with the car itself. All the parts of all the parts of the car now are following this curve. And if we go ahead, if you take a close look, you can see that the triangle is always looking into the direction of the turns, but the wheels do not. And the next step is how to make them follow this rotation. We have two ways to do that. One of them is to use a constraint, which is a copy rotation constraint. It can be really handy, but again, I found that in this case cannot be used because the drivers are messed, because the drivers and this constraint, like with the follow path, they are messing with each other, so we can't really use it. It would be great, but we won't use that in this case. Instead, we're gonna go ahead and use another driver now on the z-axis. So let's go ahead, right click, add a driver. Now we are not going to need the control arrow, but instead the wheel direction. We want it to follow that, and not the vert space, but the local space. And but the more important, that's not the x location, what we are looking for in this driver, but the z rotation. And now we can change the vert space to local space. And as you can see, now it's how the triangle is turning. It's going to affect the wheel itself. So let's go ahead and just copy paste it onto the other front wheel. And when we are done, you can see from this view that every time when the car is arriving to a turn, all the wheels, if I can select the arrow, all the wheels are going to follow that turn, which is great, but many cases the wheels are turning a little bit too much. You can see that it turned almost all in and the car is just going across it. So what we want to do to avoid it is to select this triangle, and in the track to constraint, we want to lower the influence. Actually, we can make it half of it, 0.5. And when we've done that and take a look from above, we can see, selecting the controller and moving it again, that it kind of follows the curve. All right, it's a little bit too much still. Maybe, or is it good? Well, I think it's kind of good. You can of course set it precisely to your needs. In this case, I think it's going to be okay. I'm good with that. So here we are, the rig is already done. So if you followed along this tutorial, you have this car rig already. As I mentioned earlier, it's not really the best because it doesn't really have any physics, but it is really good for many animations you maybe want to do with cars. So I absolutely recommend to do it because it's just fun, it looks okay, and I really can't think of any more simple way to do it. So I think that's one of the best ways to make a car rig, and I hope it was really useful for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.